Good morning and welcome. My name is Judd Ashman, and I have the honor to serve you as mayor of the greatest city in the world, Gaithersburg, Maryland. And now I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker today, Major Ann Barleib of Tobyhanna. Is it Tobyhanna? Tobyhanna, Pennsylvania. Ann received a bachelor's and master's degree from Marywood University in 2004 and was commissioned into the aviation branch of the U.S. Army through the University of Scranton ROTC program. As an aviation officer, Ann deployed to Iraq for 18 months in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom during the surge in 2007-2008. She transferred to the Psychological Operations Branch in 2009 and deployed to Qatar in support of Operation New Dawn in 2010 as a strategic partner for a Joint Operations Command. During her 13 years in service, Ann received the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, Air Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Army Achievement Medal, Parachutist Badge, Aviator Badge, and Combat Action Badge. While at the command and General Staff College in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, Ann experienced multiple medical issues resulting from a pituitary tumor. She is currently going through the medical board process and anticipates military retirement soon. In the meantime, Ann is dedicating much of her time to mentoring service members, veterans, and family members with her experience-based approach to complex medical issues, PTSD, family dynamics, suicide, and non-combat-related trauma. Her words today are part of her journey, so it gives me great pleasure to introduce Major Ann Barleib.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? Good. I think we can be fairly certain that I've spent more time thinking about these next 15 minutes than anyone else here. I'm all too aware that a lot can happen in 15 minutes, and also nothing can happen. 15 minutes is a relative experience. Just ask someone running a marathon, ask a woman in labor, or ask any one of us sitting in rush hour traffic here in DC. Ask someone waiting to board a plane who's afraid to fly to describe to you their 15-minute experience. Since we're all here embarking on this time together, I thought I'd do something a little different. Maybe even unprecedented. Something that under any other circumstances might make a speech coach nervous or the Army Public Affairs Office cringe. Several weeks ago, I submitted today's piece for approval through the Army's PAO office and to be archived in the city of Gaithersburg. Since then, though, many surprising and unexpected things have happened, and I prepared new comments, which I think are much better. While I happen to be the one up here at the controls, I think it's best if all of us in the cockpit here help determine the altitude that we're going to climb to and hold today during this flight. So before we go ahead and take off, I'd like to put it to a vote and see which piece you'd all prefer. By show of hands, let's go ahead and see. Would you guys like to see the piece that I submitted a couple weeks ago or the newer piece? All right, I like it. It's a little bit longer of a story, but I think it's well worth it. So hang in there with me. You made a great choice, and let's get right down to it. We're going to start off with what might seem like a confusing and irrelevant question that I hope not only makes sense, but also fascinates you by the time we finish this flight and land. The question is, where do bald eagles come from? Let me explain. On September 30th, a Navy friend of mine concluded his distinguished 20-year career with a very memorable retirement ceremony out at Harrington Harbor. It was picturesque, with all the white dress uniforms, the sand, and the water. While one of his friends was up at the podium, reminiscing about their assignment history, I saw a bald eagle flying over the water behind him. And it took every ounce of discipline I had to not have an outburst and say, look, there's a bald eagle. At the same time, though, I felt like I was being a little selfish, by not sharing. And it was an intense inner conflict, and the struggle was real. I admittedly can't remember what was said because all I could think about was that eagle and the fact that my friend would never know or see firsthand that an eagle attended his retirement ceremony, which, let's face it, that's pretty awesome. Later that evening, we went to a clam bake. This friend of mine really knows how to do things, let me tell you. And one of his sons, Alec, asked if anyone else saw the eagle. Well, I nearly jumped out of my chair to hug this soon-to-be 16-year-old kid. Again, I restrained myself. Some weren't convinced it was an eagle, but Alec and I were pretty sure, and it was a huge bird. So I'm going to call it a bald eagle. Truth be told, the purest romantic and warrior in me hopes that this eagle will make a few good, loving stories someday. The world, and our country in particular, is past due for some great and timeless loving stories. Well, since then, let's just say I've had eagles on my mind. And as I was preparing the comments for today, an analogy came comparing bald eagles with wounded warriors, service members, and veterans. Bald eagles are so distinctive, you know, as a bird of prey and a symbol of freedom. They're majestic, awe-inspiring, and mysterious. They're powerful predators, but at the same time, they're vulnerable and rare. While their ranks have rebounded in recent years, as we all know, they've been endangered for some time. There is a robust and impressive nationwide effort to protect and preserve this special creature. Thousands of people and resources are dedicated to the rehabilitation of wounded, ill, and injured eagles. The more I thought about this analogy, the more similarities occurred to me between bald eagles, service members, wounded warriors, and veterans. Some examples were more obvious than others. For those of you who do not know, colonel rank in the Army is a shiny silver eagle, or what we call a full bird. So during the course of my career, and more recently as a field grade officer, I've actually spent a lot of time in the company of eagles. And a few of the eagles I've worked for have even happened to be bald. I say this with great respect and admiration, especially in the cases where those bald eagles have been promoted to bald stars or generals. I'm sorry, gentlemen. The analogy was just too good and too real to pass up. Suddenly, I imagined how awe-inspiring it would be to have a real live bald eagle present during the Veterans Day observance. I got goosebumps everywhere and immediately started an intense arm wrestling match in my head over this idea. My creative, carefree, fearless voice stood up cheering, "Yes, yes, of course there must be a bald eagle," while the practical, responsible voice sat with its arms crossed asking, "Who the heck do you think you are, and where in the world do you think you're going to get a bald eagle? Don't be ridiculous." I kept this idea to myself for a few days and rode this secret roller coaster between enthusiasm and trepidation. I found myself surrounded by eagles of every kind. They were everywhere. Stickers, license plates, storefronts, stories, statues, billboards, jewelries, ball caps, jerseys, yes, even here in Washington, D.C., Eagles jerseys, magazine covers, Eagle Scouts, t-shirts, memes, commercials. Every time I turned around, there was a bald eagle. In all fairness, I did make a trip to Philadelphia, so maybe that was to be expected. But I have a feeling that my trip coinciding with this Veterans Day Eagle idea was rather prophetic and therefore profound in convincing myself that this was something worth looking into. It was something, quite frankly, I had to look into. I mean, how many Eagle Scouts and projects are there in a square-mile radius? I think I must have run into them all. I finally told my occupational therapist about it at Walter Reed, and I said, "Joe, if a bald eagle lands on my shoulder during the Gaithersburg Veterans Day observance, I'll buy you a burger." He laughed and said, "Well, you should give it your best shot. I do like myself a good burger." Later that same day, a neighbor of mine, who I hadn't seen in a while, knocks on my door. I open the door, and he's standing there holding up this T-shirt to give me. I immediately tell him to freeze in the doorway while I go to get my camera. He was understandably confused, maybe a little concerned, so I told him about the bald eagle idea for Veterans Day that I'd been daydreaming about and that I wanted to remember forever that a bald eagle was literally delivered right to my door. Mike is here with us, and I'd like to just thank him for showing up when he did. Hey, Mike, there he is. Mike received the shirt that day and wanted me to have it because it says Anajet on here. And my first name is Ann, and I'm a pilot, so he thought of me. For some reason, he didn't want to wait until whenever our paths crossed again. He wanted to deliver it to me right away. He also reassured me and said, well, ma'am, I think you'll get an eagle if you want one. All you got to do is ask around and see. He made this seemingly impossible thing seem so simple, and I hope I never forget that. So with that, I set about finding out where to get us a bald eagle for today. First thing the next day, I sent out a couple dozen emails to various organizations all over the country, coast to coast, California to Oregon, Arizona, Florida, Pennsylvania, and Maine. I explained that I was a female Army combat helicopter pilot, wounded warrior at Walter Reed, and keynote speaker for Veterans Day, and that I'd love to have a bald eagle present if it was at all possible. I asked what seemed like a scary and somewhat absurd question. Can you help or have someone in mind who can bring us a bald eagle? I heard back from so many people, either by phone or email, and I learned so many things about birds and wildlife conservation and natural resources. Everyone wished they could help and thought it was an incredible idea, but it was either too short notice or too far away. When one administrator at a zoo told me over the phone he didn't think their eagle would behave during such an important ceremony, I told him, sir, your eagle sounds like my kind of eagle. Someday, I'll go visit that eagle. Everyone cautioned against getting my hopes up too high, but also wished me luck, and some had a friend or a friend of a friend to whom they referred me. I continued to call around even as it started looking unlikely, and I resentfully began to wonder why a bald eagle could show up at my door on a t-shirt, but not on Veterans Day. A trend emerged of several recommendations to Maryland's Department of Natural Resources. They host an annual festival, and if anybody could make it happen, they could. I called and spoke to a nice lady, Ms. Dory Coleman, who re-energized my fading hope and confidence with her excitement for the idea. She enthusiastically referred me to Rangers Jessica Conley and Sarah Milbourne. She cautioned that they're very busy and it is short notice, but to please, please, please just reach out to them and see. I immediately sent an email to Rangers Conley and Milbourne. This is what I wrote. Good afternoon, Ms. Conley and Ms. Milbourne. Ms. Dory Coleman gave me your contact information. I was invited to be the keynote speaker at the City of Gaithersburg Veterans Day, and I want to make the most of the opportunity. I'm an active duty Army major. I flew helicopters and was in psychological operations. I've been in the Army for 13 years and I'm currently a patient at Walter Reed, getting ready to medically retire due to some pretty major league medical conditions. As I was preparing the comments, an analogy of an eagle occurred in comparison with service members. You know, flight altitude, integration with nature, predators and prey, liberty, grace, getting injured, being endangered, being protected, having caretakers and handlers, education, and symbolism. If it's possible, I'd like to have an eagle present, and I've been calling around learning about how to make these kinds of arrangements. I realize it's not the easiest thing, but I hope someone can help or at least point me in the right direction. I don't want to make a spectacle or give the impression that this is a flashy thing or in any way put the safety of eagles in danger with this kind of attention. I'd be happy to tailor the comments in a way that encompasses the importance of wildlife preservation and our integration with nature. I'd like to tell the story of how the idea came about. You know, allowing imagination and creativity, the quest to find an eagle, the resourcing, the feasibility, cooperation, and most important, the not giving upness of it. And make several analogies through storytelling that compare. And the presence of nature as a real and powerful healing force. If an eagle can be present there with a handler during the talk, that would be great. 2 or 3 or a whole flock would be even better. My mom, who has been a great sport in tolerating this crazy idea, was joking that we'll either not be able to get one single eagle or we'll have a whole flock on our hands. If the handler would like to say something, that can probably be incorporated somehow too, or I'll make sure I cover the key points that he or she would want addressed. Please let me know if you can help or have any ideas. Thanks for all that you do. I never really knew how much the Department of Natural Resources and wildlife organizations did. This has been a real eye-opener as I've been on all the websites and talked with different organizations over the last few days. With great respect and appreciation, Ann Barlieb. Ranger Milborn got back to me and she said, Major Barlieb, hello. First off, please accept our deepest gratitude for your service to this country. I cannot fathom what a soldier goes through in the line of duty and subsequently upon return to normal life. I'll work with Ranger Conley to see if we'll be able to assist you, but at this juncture it doesn't look great. We book events months out and as such have very little wiggle room to squeeze in additional events. We'll be in touch next week to let you know if we can make this possible. Warm regards, Ranger Sarah Milborn. At that point, and as far as I could tell, Rangers Milborn and Conley were my last chance, but this wasn't a definitive no. So I remained cautiously optimistic and probably recklessly hopeful. I distracted myself with all kinds of projects so as to not self-destruct while waiting. I had such great hope, but so little control. You know, my illnesses have taught me that the looser grip, the better, when it comes to circumstances over which we have limited control and the choices are less than ideal. I waited and I didn't discuss this with anyone, which I think was necessary for my peace of mind because the last thing I needed to hear was how difficult or unlikely this was to occur. Finally, Ranger Conley's email came, and I will never forget sitting there in front of her reply, my heart pounding in my ears, and the creative voice on its feet cheering, yes, yes, of course there's going to be an eagle. Good afternoon, Major Barlieb. Good afternoon, Major Barlieb. I'm pleased to let you know that I've rearranged our duty shifts a bit, and I'll be able to bring Buchanan, our bald eagle, to your event. I might be able to arrange one other ranger with a golden eagle as well, but I can't make that promise as of yet. I'm honored to assist you at this event and very much look forward to meeting you. I'd be happy to discuss arrangements and so on. I can be reached, and her number was there. Thank you, and I'll be in touch, Ranger Conley. Well, I was up briskly walking around my room, and I confess I combined bald eagle with a lot of explicatives. I'm sure I outdid my field grade colleagues by a long shot, who probably make similar combinations when frustrated with their full bird kernel. I couldn't help myself, and who could blame me? We got ourselves a unbelievable eagle. It was late, but I had to send my new ranger friends a quick note. Good evening, Rangers Conley and Milborn. After a long day, your email is the greatest surprise and something I'm sure I'll remember for a long, long time. I have goosebumps, and I'm very grateful that you're willing and able to help. I'll follow up in the morning. I just had to get a quick note to you in the meantime. Look forward to crafting something together and really making the most of this opportunity. I've acquired lots of names and call signs during my time in the service. Please call me Ann. Really thrilled. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon. A few days later, Ranger Conley really blew me away. She was not only bringing Buchanan, their bald eagle, but also Chaucer, a golden eagle, and a few eagle experts. I don't know about you, Mom, but I think we got a flock on our hands here. Good morning, Ranger Conley wrote. I'm thrilled to let you know that Ranger Ashley Ranke will be coming with me and will have our golden eagle with her. Both eagles are non-releasable, and although they're very different species, they are cage mates and friends. Here are some thoughts that we'd share with audiences. She listed 4. First, while it may seem sad that these birds must live in captivity, They have a very important role to play as animal ambassadors. All of our birds are non-releasable, and in many cases, this is due to human causes. Hopefully, by people getting a chance to experience these majestic birds up close and hear their stories, we can keep the same fate from happening to other wildlife. Second, eagles have come back from the brink of extinction in my lifetime. This is only possible because of everyday citizens passing legislation, protecting habitat, and making sure chemicals like DDT were banned. It is amazing what humans can accomplish when they put their minds and hearts into something. Third, we cannot become complacent. We have saved this species, but there are new struggles and challenges and new threats looming. We must remain vigilant. We have a duty to be good stewards of this earth. And finally, while these birds now live in captivity, they are still wild animals. They have become acclimated and conditioned to work with people and do programs, but they are still wild animals. They have good days and they have bad days. They're no longer flighted, but they still remain majestic, powerful, and amazing creatures. We'd like to arrive and have the eagles out for 20 to 30 minutes before the ceremony so they have time to settle down for a bit. Please let us know if we'll be indoors or out and in order of events. It helps us plan for loud noises, reminds us of veterans on fireworks, 4th of July, saluting with a bird on our arm, and etc. We just like to have a plan in our heads, Ranger Conley. And now, here we are, all of us together, Ranger Jessica Conley and her team, in the company of a bald eagle named Buchanan and a golden eagle named Chaucer. So what does this have to do with Veterans Day, you might be asking? The most obvious answer is everything. But a great mentor of mine would remind me, trust and never underestimate your audience. Let them come to their own important and powerful conclusions. So I won't corner or limit anybody today by trying to explain what this means. Let's instead circle back around to the initial question. Where do eagles come from? There are many ways one could answer this question. Eagles come from an egg, from North America, from football or the Boy Scouts, from the military with its 101st Screaming Eagles or full bird colonels, from the Eastern Shore and Maryland's Department of Natural Resources, from nature. We can all get wrapped around the axle about the facts of where eagles come from, but I think the most real and important thing this whole experience has taught me is that eagles can come from an idea and a simple willingness to show up. Eagles come from exactly where they want to come from and where they're willing to come from. I'm willing to consider that this very well might have been all Buchanan's idea in the first place. For whatever reason, he might have thought it important for a bald eagle to be at the Gaithersburg 2017 Veterans Day observance. Buchanan happens to be a bald eagle, and so he agreed to show up through the help of his friends. It's no secret in our nation's ambitious and impressive history that time and time again, groups of competent, creative, and well-intentioned men and women have been in exactly the right place at exactly the right time to help move a president's name along a particular path with great success. While President Buchanan was a bachelor, I'm confident he had plenty of help from his friends. We all do in the getting to where we're going of life. My grandmother used to tell me when I was little, when a miracle is afoot, or a very special occasion, if we prefer to say that, all the angels assemble on the forward line, eager with anticipation to help move it along. If you allow yourself to fly, she'd say, the angels won't let you fall. I'm quite certain, and now more than ever before in my life, that we have all come forth to fly. It has been my distinct honor and privilege to have participated in this Veterans Day miracle and special occasion here in Gaithersburg. It's been greater still to say that I've served my country, and one day here soon, I too will refer to myself as a veteran. On behalf of all service members and veterans of the most impressive military the world has ever known, and a country which I am most proud to call myself a citizen, I want to encourage all of you. Get to know your own story. Find out where you come from, and I mean where you really come from. Become an ambassador of that place, and then allow yourself to fly. not only today, but every day, because this is the greatest and single most important way that we can thank a veteran. When people ask me where I'm from, the events leading up to today have taught me the most immediate and perhaps most accurate answer worth considering is, I come from this new place called the simple willingness to show up. This place changes, and it's new and different every time I arrive and say it. People save lives and change the world from this place. As Ranger Conley so eloquently said, and she and I have been fortunate enough to experience firsthand, each through our own birds of prey, the Army's Kiowa Warrior and Mother Nature's Eagles. It is amazing what humans can accomplish when we put our minds and hearts into something. And as my friend Mike reminded me at exactly the right moment when I needed it most, this is simple. It's true when they say, eagles fly with eagles. And if you allow yourself to fly, I promise you, you won't fall. And when it does feel like you're falling sometimes, worry not, because there is no ground below. There never was, and there never will be, so long as the horizon is in view. Let's be clear. If a bald eagle and a golden eagle can show up here today at the last minute, through nothing more than the willingness of a group of people, truly anything is possible. Come on and let's finally admit it out loud and give ourselves a break. The sky is the sky, and there are no limits. So the next time you have a grand idea or a loving story that your creative side is on its feet cheering for, do the simple thing. Get quiet, listen, look around for the eagles, and they'll show up. And if you allow yourself to really see, the eagles will be everywhere. We're in this flight together, all of us. Let's take care of ourselves, take care of each other, and take care of our country and its resources. Most of all, though, let's enjoy the view from up here. You guys made a great choice at this altitude. This is by far the best altitude. And wherever our nest happens to be right now in this moment, let's not look down anymore or ever again. As my scout pilot flight instructors used to tell me over 10 years ago, always keep your chin up and an eagle eye out there on the horizon. Thank you for showing up and spending this time with us. Like Buchanan and Chaucer, I no longer fly myself, but I hope, or I think, I'm fairly certain. Okay, I pretty much believe, okay, I might actually know. No, I do know. I know that the three of us, and hopefully all of you agree, we just had a great and memorable flight here in Gaithersburg. And that's a relatively wonderful way to experience what I hope didn't seem like 15 minutes at all. One final thought before we go ahead and sign off. This is for everyone, but it's meant to strike a special chord for my cavalry brothers and sisters out there. From our ancestors on horseback to the present-day rotary wing pilots. You might be able to take this girl out of the cavalry, but you won't take the cavalry out of this girl. And as you all know as well as I do, if you ain't Cav, you ain't you know what. Now that's a clear and simple bottom line. Happy Veterans Day.
Major Barley, I've been through a lot of Veterans Day speeches. Every one of them has been heartfelt and good. This is by far the most remarkable we've ever had, and one that surely will stick with all of us all year, and probably longer than 1 year. So thank you so much. And I guess you owe your friend at least one burger. Maybe two, one for each eagle. Okay, fantastic.